Camera gear can be expensive, and if you're anything like me, sometimes it can take you months of deliberating before actually pulling the trigger on that shiny new toy. But sometimes the thing that you thought might not necessarily be worth the money actually ends up being a really valuable tool that you can use for years to come to make better videos and further your career as a filmmaker. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of that equipment that I was kind of hesitant on, but ended up finding that I got tons of use out of after I let myself make the purchase. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Sarellas. I'm a videographer and editor from Toronto, Canada, and I specialize in sports videography. And the first piece of expensive gear that I'm glad I bought is this Sony FX3. This isn't necessarily a camera that should be making tons of headlines. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what the deal is with the FX3 by now, based on all the reviews that are on YouTube. Also, if you're wondering why we just completely changed the set and why I look different and have a different shirt on, it's because after I pulled the FX3 away from the camera in that first recording, I went out of focus for half of the video. So we're re-recording a little bit here. But the FX3 is kind of one of those things I feel like I should have got right away, because for $3,900 or $3,700 with the sale that's happening right now, the codecs and the frame rates and just the quality of footage you get from a full frame camera is just remarkable. And I think the thing that really separates it is its versatility. And don't get me wrong, I love the Sony a7 IV that I have, and I love the FX30 that I have, and I don't regret buying those cameras. They're great cameras and I use them all the time, and I actually have a purpose in my workflow, as I've discussed in some other videos, for all three of those cameras that I use. But I waited so long to buy the FX3 because I just didn't think I needed it with the other cameras I have. But the combination of everything that it has in a body that is so small and convenient to use has essentially made it the camera that I turn to first for everything, and my A camera in almost every situation where I didn't even think I was going to get much use out of it. So it's really been a remarkable thing to have, and honestly at this point I don't know what I would do if I didn't have it. That's how much I've been relying on it since I got it. The next expensive product that I'm happy I got is, I guess, kind of debatable on what you consider expensive, but I'm gonna call a filter that's over $100 expensive. And it's this Tiffen Black Pro Mist filter. It kind of just looks like a regular UV filter if you don't know the difference, but what it does is take off some of that digital sharpness from your image, and it also makes lights kind of glow. You can see some of the halation on the lights in the background probably, and it makes everything just kind of look a little bit more dreamy and soft. And you might be wondering why I need this, or why I bought three of them that are essentially identical, one in the 82mm thread size and two in the 77mm thread size, which is expensive to get the ones with the bigger thread sizes, obviously. But if you're going to have a lot of different lenses, you want to buy your filters at large sizes, so you don't need to repurchase the same filter a bunch of times at different sizes. But I bought mine 3 times because I like using 3 cameras, as I mentioned before, with this filter on all 3 of them at the same time to get a consistent look. And I like it because it, one, makes your videos stand out online. And not everyone is using this Black Pro Mist filter at a 1/4 strength. It's a little bit stronger than what most people like to use. I think most people buy this at an 1/8 strength. It really does make your lights glow, as you can see from this example here. But when I'm filming sports and I point it up at somebody, especially when you can see the stadium lights in the back, they just look so much cooler than if you point at a stadium floodlight that has no glow to it and is just a bunch of harsh circles. I think this just makes your, for lack of a better term, videos look more cinematic, and it's just worth it for me to have them. So I have 3 of them. I think they're great quality, and I love them, even though I pay over $100 every time I buy one of these filters. Now, this next piece of gear that I was really hesitant on and I thought was way too expensive actually isn't with me right now. I have to go get it, so I'll be right back. Okay, it's this Tiffen 35-150 f2 to 2.8 lens. It's a beast of a lens. This thing is heavy, but oh my goodness, like I said, I really appreciated the versatility of the FX3. Do I appreciate the versatility of this? I view this lens as essentially a 2-for-1. It does cost $1,900 US, which is pretty expensive for a zoom lens that has a variable aperture, but the variable aperture is f2 to 2.8. I'm pretty sure this lens hits f2.8 around the 80 millimeter mark. I've tested this recently and don't remember the results exactly, but it was something along those lines. And so I essentially treat this lens when I'm filming like sports games as a 35mm f2 prime and a 35 to 150 f2.8 zoom in one convenient package. And I think it's worth paying a premium for a package like that because you don't need to swap lenses ever. You can be filming a basketball game, for example, and 35 is plenty wide to get your wide shots when a player runs close to you, and 150 is plenty tight to film to the other side of the court. I find that when I'm filming football, this is the perfect pre-game and post-game lens. You can get any looks that you need, so it pretty much stays attached to my FX3 at all times. The autofocus performance is really good. You can do anything you want with the 2 custom function buttons if you're into that type of thing. And like for the price, to get a sharp 35mm prime and a crazy focal range with 35 to 150 at f2.8, people were paying like thousands of dollars and still do pay thousands of dollars for 70 to 200 f2.8 zoom lenses. So if you don't want a 70 to 200, you'd rather something that has a little bit of a wider end and only goes to 150. It's kind of a perfect option, and that's why it's my most used lens nowadays. Easily worth $1,900 US. Finally, we have one that I was really unsure about purchasing, but this Sony XLR top handle has been amazing, like way more than I could have ever asked for. It's $600 US, which is really expensive for an audio interface when you consider some of the other options out there that don't just plug into a camera as a top handle. And even when you buy this in conjunction with an FX3 or an FX30 to get a bit of a discount, it's still pretty expensive. But the convenience is really what sells me on this. To be able to get a body of this size in your FX3 and have 2 XLR ports and a 3.5mm jack is great, and you can switch between your audio channels back here. You have tons of controls for all channels right over here, and you can enable or disable the audio. Now, this isn't a perfect little handle. I don't like how it's really difficult to mount a monitor to this, and some companies sell attachments that you can use to extend the handle to give you a better grip, or to mount a monitor in a way that is a little bit more convenient for actually grabbing the handle after. Because if you mount a monitor on one of these 2 mounting points, then there's nowhere to really put your hand after. So you can extend this a little bit with a couple attachments, which is, in my opinion, inconvenient and poorly thought out for a product of this price. But the convenience of having XLR audio on a body this small just completely makes up for it, to me, especially since there's fairly cheap alternatives to extending this. But either way, the XLR audio and the easily controllable features on this handle that would otherwise require me to dive deep into a Sony menu while I'm trying to film to adjust audio settings make this well worth it for me, and it's something that I get a ton of use out of. Let me know in the comments what camera gear purchases you were kind of hesitant on, but then ended up absolutely loving. And if you enjoyed this video, then stick around, because next week I'm going to be talking about camera gear that I regret buying. So subscribe for that, and I'll see you next time. Peace.